Hey guys, this is Max and welcome to another episode of The Story Behind the Shoot. And today's photo set is a little bit different, and that's why I want to tell you the story of the photo set itself first. So we see a beautiful young woman sitting on a bench in a city park at night. And she's apparently waiting for someone, maybe her date or her partner. And she's dressed for going out, maybe to a friend's party or something like that. And we can see kind of from a distance in a voyeuristic fashion that she's slowly getting annoyed. She's glancing at her phone and kind of turning her head around, looking around, waiting for someone apparently. And she eventually gives up and sets off. And we, as the person kind of observing her from a distance, are coming after her. And she's sensing that to some extent and is turning around at one point, but due to the darkness she cannot see anybody, and all we see is kind of her face looking in the wrong direction, looking for something, illuminated by some of the street lights. And she then walks on kind of away from us, past us, and is about to cross the street. And after crossing the street, she walks past some storefront windows that are illuminated at night. And there she, while glancing at one of the windows, she sees in the corner of her eyes, she's seeing somebody is behind her. And there again, she's turning around and recognizes that person. And we get this bittersweet smile, this face that's kind of saying at the same time, kind of being annoyed and also feeling pleased about the fact that she had been followed by that particular person. So as a viewer of this photo set, we get the idea that these people know each other, that they might be very familiar. And instantly the photo set transitions into something. She notices the camera that her follower is carrying, and she starts to pose for him. And we get some very intimate shots and delicate details. Her beautiful face illuminated by the storefront window and the lights coming from there. We get some details of her hands, of her legs and things like that. So we really get this feeling of these two people know each other. And then she sets off again, and in the little game of hide and seek, she disappears around the next corner. And the viewer, who is also the follower in this photo set, is kind of chasing after her, and we catch up with her, finding her right after the corner, standing next to another storefront window, and she's kind of delicately touching the glass of that window, and we get another nice couple of shots of her face, and she looking away or into the camera. And then kind of, probably to cut this game short, she sets off again, and we take another shot of her from behind, that follower position, so to speak. And again, the follower chases after her, and then suddenly it happens. She turns around and knocks him out. And that's how the photo set ends. And it says to be continued. So now I want to tell you a little bit more about the ideas behind this photo set, the setting, the model, and of course also the equipment that I used. The original inspiration for this photo set came when I looked at an image by Vivian Maier that is part of the John Maloof collection, an image from 1957 of a woman in a white dress at night walking towards a car. And I'm showing you this image here right now. And it is definitely taken at night, only with the light available. You do see some motion blur. You have the street lights, the city lights here on the left part of the image. And you have the protagonist of the image only illuminated by the available light, and due to the fact that she's wearing a white dress. And that image by Vivian Maier, that is rather untypical for her. As most of you know, she is this nanny who became a street photographer and so forth, and who's really known for her street photography in these images that she took with her Rolleiflex camera. And this is an untypical image for her, and it really inspired me to think about how would it be to do a portrait session almost at night with only the available light, and to use the available light to illuminate certain parts of my model. In this case, it would have been the clothes, and I was more thinking about only the hands and the face and going towards darker clothes. And I also like this behind, kind of taking an image from behind somebody, and this follow situation that we see here. And these two things kind of combined inspired me for this photo set that I just showed you here. In addition to that, I wanted to have a woman waiting in vain for her partner, for somebody else. And I've done something similar before. There's a photo set on my website that is called Waiting for a No-Show, where we see a young woman waiting for her date in front of a theater, a classic theater, built in the early 1900s or something like that, and a very similar setup where she eventually gives up and decides to go out for a party instead, and even changes her clothes. That's how the photo set ends, and I encourage you to take a look at this photo set on my website. And back then I wasn't bold enough to do that in the dark, so I shot this set in the afternoon, and there's an obvious gap between what the story tells in the images and the daylight that is still available. And I wanted to do that differently for this particular photo set here. And as a setting, because I wanted to have a classic look to the images and kind of combine that with certain modern features like smartphone light or things like that. And I decided to go for a city park that looks at least a little bit like Paris. And fortunately, here in Munich, we do have a quarter that is called the French Quarter. That is also structured in a very similar fashion like many Paris streets would be. And there is one particular city park that is even named after the city of Bordeaux. And here I decided to take these images because also of the traditional street lights that I have and the kind of space around it, the traditional benches and things like that. So this is a setting that we had. And as a model, I chose the really breathtakingly beautiful Vanessa, and I felt a little bit bad afterwards, and I even told her that because she was basically way too beautiful to put her in the dark and only take like 50 images of her. And once she started posing and everything, I was really like, oh my God, I should really be somewhere else with her and have beautiful light and just take a lot of shots with her. And nevertheless, the fact that she is such a beauty and really stands out in these images really contributes to the set and adds a lot of value to the set, in my opinion. And I will definitely shoot with her again. She's actually becoming a model, or currently starting out to become one. Already has at least one agency, I think, a sports modeling agency, and she's collecting other contracts right now. She did a wonderful job, really, and it was so nice to work with her on set. And what I found striking is that she has that special ability of being fun and kind of making jokes and everything, and then kind of instantly switching and being back into her role and posing exactly how you need it for the image. And what I also really appreciated is that she was comfortable with the analog process and with me shooting from a tripod and all that. In terms of equipment, and that might be most interesting to you guys, I used my Mamiya RZ67 with the 110mm Secker lens, primarily because of its f2.8 aperture. I originally thought about using a 250mm portrait lens and kind of taking the images from further away. And the idea behind that, of course, was to kind of add to that voyeuristic look and also have a stronger compression of the scenes. But I then decided against it primarily because I needed as much light as possible coming in through the lens, and the 250mm lens only has a 4.5 aperture, and I decided against it primarily because of that. And one of the reasons for that is that I wanted to shoot my Kodak Tri-X at box speed. So after consulting with my lab and also a couple of friends for that photo shoot, I decided to stick to ISO 400 and instead go for slower shutter speeds and using a tripod. And that, of course, meant working really slowly, working really carefully, getting occasional motion blur in there intentionally, but really trying to keep the camera as still as possible, and working with shutter speeds ranging from, I think, 1/8 of a second or one quarter of a second at some cases, and 1/30 of a second. These were kind of the shutter speeds that I worked with depending on how much light I had available. So it was, again, really working on the edge of underexposure, and even in some cases, unfortunately, I underexposed the shots a little bit. And in hindsight, I have to say, I think in the future I would push the film at least one stop just to ensure that I can compensate for maybe some metering errors and things that might happen if you have so little light available. That was really the trickiest part, and that was also the most ambitious aspect of it all. I brought along my digital Leica T, similar to what we did in the A Lonely Night Out photo session that we also put up the story behind the shoot video for. So I tested it digitally first and had my handheld Gaussian Starlight 2 light meter, and kind of combined the insights that I got from it to come up with a good metering technique. And still my lab kind of feedbacked me that the negatives were rather thin, and I still have to take a look at these. So they had to rescue them a little bit in the post-processing process. And still, I really like how the images turned out. And if you look at the Vivian Maier inspiration, the original one, you can also see that they actually turned out as I wanted them to turn out. So I'm really happy about the results, and I feel much more confident about doing something similar in the future. And there are some learnings. Unfortunately, I didn't have a good tripod for this session. That is another learning. So if you intend to do something like that, it's kind of obvious. Please ensure that you actually bring along a tripod that works fine. With respect to the feedback that I received to one of my last videos, I wanted to show you in this case how I prepared the photo shoot. Here you can see one of my concept papers that I usually write for such an important photo set. So you do see some description about the basic storyline. I also put down some lines about who's involved and where we have to be at what time. So kind of a small schedule that I can come up with that is as accurate as possible, of course. Then a suggestion with respect to the styling and outfit, and depending on whether we have a hair and makeup artist, they of course also see the entire concept to get the kind of context that they need to do styling and hair and makeup properly. In this case, Vanessa made the appropriate suggestions based on what I had written in the concept. And I usually also provide some styling inspiration images that I draw from Pinterest and other sources. And last but not least, I also list which equipment we will use. And usually I do that for both Jules and myself so that we both know what to bring along for a particular set. So also to give you an idea of how this photo set came into being, from the very first idea and the inspiration from Vivian Maier to actually writing a concept, finding a model and location, and then turning it into reality through the actual shooting process. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to like it and maybe even share it with your friends. If you want to see more videos like that, please subscribe to the channel. And as always, we really appreciate your comments, so please leave us a comment in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you soon. Bye.